Hey everyone, how are you all doing? Today I'm going to be taking a look at the McFarlane Toys store exclusive DC Multiverse Gold Label Edition Crisis on Infinite Earths Monitor Build-A-Figure Collect and Connect whatever wave Superman, Kid Flash, Psycho Pirate, Spectre, and then of course they build the Monitor. I think I covered all the bases for that name, but I'm not 100% sure. And I'm very excited to have this wave. I know a lot of people were very upset about this wave in the sense of the price hike and everything for it. I personally, I'm a big fan of this story, so I was going to get it no matter what the price was. That doesn't justify it. I still wasn't happy with the price, but getting the whole wave together, the price for it wasn't as bad. And a lot of people were speculating that this was probably going to be 2024's Target, like, Build-A-Figure wave, which would have been really cool had that had happened, but unfortunately it did not, and it ended up on the McFarlane Toy Store, and then $40 a pop for all these figures. And just buying them individually, $40, to me, not worth it. Other than this Superman, not worth it, especially because of the things that you have to do. Now, if Monitor was like a special $40 edition thing, maybe, because he's got a lot of really good stuff on him. And all these figures are really good in their own right. They do have some flaws and whatnot, of course. You know, it's a McFarlane figure, and it's a figure in general. They have, you know, some things that I want to modify, change, etc. But the biggest issue that I have with this wave is the fact that I had to, like, just absolutely scrub and wash all of them off because they just had that so terrible oily, like, shock oil, whatever, on them that, like, McFarlane figures just, for me anyway, are known for having now, and I'm used to it, but it's so annoying, especially when it's deep in joints, because I had to actually take Superman's leg apart and, like, scrub that down to get that out of there, because it just makes the figures oily and greasy, and I hate messing around with them when they're like that. But now they're all fixed, and I'm good with them. But this is going to be a relatively short video, because when it comes to Spectre, WallE, and Psycho Pirate, they're almost entirely reuse. But Superman and Monitor are the only two new figures, so those we'll go over in more detail. But without further ado, let's get into what the entire wave comes with. So what you see on them pretty much is all that they come with, because they all come with a Build-A-Figure piece, so they don't really come with a whole lot of accessories, except for WallE and Clark. And WallE comes with a pair of fists, which are also, as well as his running hands, very, very tiny, and I don't know why, but they are just so tiny. Like, they're damn near like Mafex size for a 7-inch scale figure, and that's just... Whew. And then we have the opposite problem when it comes to Clark's hands, because he has some real big, like, meat, clobber things going on. These are just huge. Like, you can see it's damn near the size of my thumb, which is insane. But other than that, they just all come with the Build-A-Figure pieces to make the Monitor. So that is another reason, because, I mean, if they all came with a whole bunch of accessories, they could have justified the $40 price range. Or if they all had wired capes, except for WallE, but we'll get into that more when we talk about Clark. But speaking of WallE, let's actually just get WallE out of the way real quick. So he is almost entirely reuse, aside from his forearms and his hands and then his head sculpt. The rest of it is the Blue Beetle body, or the Flash body, if you want to call it that, So he is pretty much the exact same figure as that, like articulation-wise and everything, but you can see how tiny his hands are. They are just, like, if I bring in real quick the Marvel Legends Jean Grey, her hand is almost the same size as WallE's, and that's insane. I'm definitely gonna be switching those out, and that'll definitely improve the figure. And then one thing I'm also gonna do is, if we take a look at the head sculpt here on WallE, I think I'm gonna put some black lines around his mask in that, because I feel like the yellow and the skin tone just kind of get lost in themselves. Kind of looks like Jack Quaid, too. Does anyone else see that? Like, from this angle right here, it looks like Jack Quaid. I think he'd be a good Flash, honestly. But the head sculpt looks really nice. I like the, the wings, the hair, all that good stuff that we're used to seeing from the Flash figures, and WallE especially, obviously. But I think that I'm going to put some lines around his cowl and then switch out the hands. And then other than that, I think he'll be a pretty solid WallE figure. Because I love this body mold. This body mold's really solid. Psycho Pirate is no exception on that, because he is the... I think his arms are the Flash arms. I think he's also the Blue Beetle body. If I'm looking at him with WallE right now, other than the torso, and I think Maybe the torso is the Nightfall one, but like modified? Maybe? It could be, I don't know. But the head sculpt on this looks really cool, and they did a great job of tampering on the faces and then the reds and the blacks and all that stuff. And it just makes me, with getting a red and black, like, you know, kind of thing like this, I'm really hoping that we get a Harley at some point, just a good classic one, because we have not gotten a Harley since like the line started, and that figure was just not good. But this figure's pretty all right. He's got a very shiny, just flimsy, almost fruit roll-up looking cape. And like I said, it would have been cool if they had given them all wired capes. I don't really need one for Cycle Pirate, but it would have been cool to have one for Spectre in the monitor, because the one on Clark, like I said, we'll get to it, but it's amazing. And then unlike Clark, they actually gave us the yellow on the back of his belt, but they didn't give him the black or anything on the back of him. And then as for the Spectre, he is just a reuse of Martian Manhunter's body, which you can kind of tell when you look at his neck because it looks like he's just shrugging. So the only thing that I'm going to do to modify him is just give him a longer neck peg, because I think that'll really take this figure from a like solid figure to a really, really good figure. And same thing, maybe with like a cloth cape or something, but I really like the star pattern on here. So maybe I'll have to just buy a green cape that's maybe two-sided and it's got black on the inside, and then just paint some white on the inside. That could be kind of cool. That would be a good way to emulate that. But I like the head sculpt on this too. It looks really good. It's got the black on here. It only continues about halfway on the head. If I can peel the hood back, it was actually really funny when I was washing it and looking at it. You can see it just kind of stops right there, which is really funny. But you know, it's not a big deal. It's not like it's something they actually had to do. It's just something that I thought I'd point out because it's funny. And like I said, his hands, his boots, and the crotch piece, and of course the hood and the head are all brand new pieces for him. But the rest, you know, underlying body is just the Martian Manhunter figure. So when it comes to Cycle Pirate, Spectre, and WallE, you know exactly what you're getting articulation-wise, so I'm not going to go over that. Taking a look at Clark, I adore this figure. The head sculpt on it, a lot of people have shit on, and I personally, I don't mind it. I think it's okay, but I haven't seen anyone do this either online, which is insane, because this just looks so good, and this is how it's going to stay in my collection. But look at the Action Comics 1000 head on here. This just looks, oh man, this looks so good. I think this might be how this stays for me, and might put this with like the first appearance Batman when that comes out. But the S, you know, the shield logo looks really good. His belt looks good. It unfortunately does not carry onto the back, which doesn't really bother me, but for $40 a pop, we should have gotten that without question. He's got the really big S on the back of his cape, which is really cool. The wire in this is very thick, and it's very, very pliable. It's very nice. It's sturdy. It feels import quality, and I love that. I'm very happy about that, and I really hope that McFarlane continues to give us wired capes, as well as maybe encouraging Hasbro to do it with some deluxe figures as well down the line would be really cool. But I'm not going to hold my breath for that. And the way they have it is just plugged into the neck here. It looks really good. And the boots and all that stuff, the proportions on this Superman, this is just, after putting this head sculpt on here, this has become my shelf display, my Justice League Superman. And I don't know if he's going to get dethroned anytime soon, honestly, other than maybe getting that DC Classics one. Because that one looks like a little bit younger, and I think he'll fit in more with the Nightfall Batman, who is my Justice League Batman currently, but we'll have to see. Because this, proportion-wise and everything, please, Todd, please use this going forward for Superman. Please. We are begging you. And as for articulation on it, his arms go up that far, rotate all the way around. He's, of course, got the standard McFarlane, so he can kind of go across. He's got bicep swivel, double-jointed elbows that go that far. He's got the standard McFarlane hands, which these are very loose on mine, which is kind of annoying, so I'm maybe going to look into switching those out. But as for the torso, unfortunately, it can't go forward at all, but it can go back a tiny little bit-ish. He's got rotation at both of those joints, of course. His legs can go forward and back, out that far. He's got a little bit of swivel at that joint up in there. He's got double-jointed knees that go back that far. No boots or anything, of course, but his feet can go back that far, up that far, and of course, ankle pivot and toe joint. And then as for the monitor, I'm really excited to have this, and I can't wait to go back and get the anti-monitor just to have a Crisis on Infinite Earths display, because this head sculpt this whole figure looks ripped right out of the comics. He's got a little bit more detail than he did in the comics, of course. You know, they had to McFarlaneify it a little bit here and there, but it overall looks really good. Like, look at this head sculpt alone. I mean, this is just, This is beautiful. This is perfect. And he's got the blue gloves and the gauntlets, the boots, you know, that are cast in gold. And he's got the gold throughout. And this is unfocused. There we go. And he's got the black undersuit, of course, this cape, which looks really nice. I would have loved to have seen this in like a cloth, you know, wired cape thing, but I don't know if they would have been able to make it look this nice. So it doesn't really bother me, but it just kind of would have been cool. Thankfully, he's sturdy enough and his cape doesn't weigh him down, which is really good, especially because he actually kind of has some small feet going on, but it's okay for him to have small feet because he's an alien. I'm just going to tell myself that. And then as for articulation on him, his head can go up that far, can look down that far. You just got to tuck it inside the collar piece up here. He's got, of course, the tilt and rotation in there. His arms go out that far. They go that far forward. You can kind of push on the shoulder pad type things a little bit, but of course it will be a little restricted. He's got bicep swivel, double jointed elbows that go up all the way, standard McFarlane joints at the wrists. As for his torso, it can go that far forward, which is pretty good. That far back, rotate, tilt, all that good stuff. His legs go out that far forward and that far back. I did have some issue with the legs falling out, but that's because I didn't connect them all the way. So whenever you are trying to put this together, push it in until you hear, I think 2 clicks is what did it, because I thought it did it the first time where it clicked once and then I went to move it and it popped out and I thought it was just loose, but I just had to kind of force it in there, and then you'll feel it when it's stiff in there, which is really good. So thankfully he's not falling apart or anything. His legs do not rotate at that joint up there, unfortunately, but he does have double jointed knees that do kind of get hindered a little bit by his skirt back here if you don't move it out of the way. But I say double jointed knees like that, it managed to pinch it and be fine. No boot swivel, but his ankles can go that far, can go up that far, and then, of course, ankle pivot, and like I said, toe joint. And then as for some size comparison, here Clark and WallE are next to my custom Barry, well, slightly modified custom, whatever you want to call it. And WallE's a tiny tad taller than him right now. Why that is, I don't know. I think it's because of the hair, actually. Because it's the same exact body, and I haven't modified the heights or anything like that. But these two look great together. I love this. I kind of wish WallE had been smaller, but I don't mind it at the same time because WallE ends up taking over for Barry, you know, in the comics, of course, obviously after Crisis on Infinite Earths. So he's, you know, got to fit the Flash costume. So it makes sense that he'd be around the same size as Barry. And then here they are next to Diana, and I really love this for the sake of Clark, because Clark's just a little bit bigger and a little bit broader than Diana, and that works perfectly for the comics. And it just, oh, God, they look so good together. Every release so far this, like, year and a little bit of last year, we're getting the perfect league, and I can't wait for Hal. I just cannot wait for Hal. Even with the base stand, Nightfall Batman is just really small compared to this Clark, which is okay, because Clark, you know, needs to be bigger and broader and stuff like that. But my mind's eye, I usually kind of think they're around the same height. Like, I feel like Clark's, you know, obviously a little bit more beefy, but then I feel like Bruce is a lot more lean and toned and stuff like that, because he has to put in a lot more work than Clark to be in shape that he's in, you know? And I feel like he should be bigger than WallE, and WallE looks like he's a lot more muscular for this figure with Bruce. So I think the Hush body probably is going to end up having to be the main display version of Batman. And then I real quick wanted to tease, which I told you guys about one of the last Multiverse reviews, my custom Aquaman with Clark and WallE, and I think this looks really good too. But I'm going to take him out of the way real quick and give my overall thoughts, because I really enjoy this wave. It obviously should have been a lot cheaper, but I don't know, for me, getting Spectre and a WallE and Clark and the Monitor, Psycho Pirate's cool. He's a good one to add to the shelf. Like I said, I don't have as much of a connection with him as I do the rest of the characters. But having all of them, they were part of my shelf that I needed. So I personally am very happy with it. I got the bundle on there that was like, what, $135 or something like that. That's not terrible. I do wish they would have come with more stuff. I wish WallE's hands would have been bigger, you know, that kind of thing. But I love this Superman, and I love the Monitor, and I love having a WallE that's going to go with my Titans. Spectre is just a really awesome character that I'm excited to add to the shelf. And yeah, there could be things that were better. You know, they could have done better. I know there were a lot of people that had some QC issues, so I'm very thankful that I did not experience any of that with mine. And that is a huge influence on this review as well. But yeah, I really enjoy this wave. And that's going to do it for me. And I will catch you all in the next one. See ya.